Always so tricky with, okay, I think we're live.
It says you're streaming live.
Hello. Okay. Yay. Oh, I'm going to do gallery view. So we're either side by side or one on top of the other. It's one on top of the other today, which is weird. Usually it's side by side. So
I see you side by side. So whatever.
Okay, perfect. Well, my computer is showing you on top.
Okay.
So weird. Okay. Oh, there it goes. I made my screen wider. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello. This is the Beyond the Scale Real Life Story series. And I started this series because I want to change the conversation around women's bodies and, you know, the struggle that women have with their bodies and dieting, yo-yo dieting, emotional eating. And I'm so excited for our guest today. First, I'm Melissa Costello. I'm a transformational eating coach, and I'm here to welcome Lena Dolter. Lena is a clarity coach, and she helps women really well, I don't have your bio in front of me because I don't like reading stuff, but she helps women kind of calibrate to their cycles, right? To have more energy, to have more vitality, to just really utilize our cycles, which a lot of people don't talk about, to support us instead of work against us. Because how many women feel like when their cycle's coming, it's like the end of the world, or they go through the worst PMS and they just have all of these crazy things. So anyway, welcome, Lena. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're just going to jump in and, you know, talk about this great topic of body image, and also what Lena does, which is so incredible around working with women in this way. So I know that we all have a body story. So why don't you share your body story with us, like where it started, how it's transformed, and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. So hi, everybody. When I was 12, so there's many, but I'll pick one that was most significant. There's two that kind of hold a deep memory for me.
Yeah.
But one of them was, so I was 12 years old. I grew up a chubby kid,
Okay.
but I was a super happy chubby kid. And I didn't know that I was chubby until somebody called me Thunder Thighs. And that somebody was a friend of mine. A girlfriend. I was 12 years old, 6th grade.
Wow.
We were running out to go to recess. So we were like, you know, breaking through the doors, we're ready to go outside, running down the hill.
Big kid, all excited.
Totally. And I had shorts on, and she called me Thunder Thighs. And I was like, I don't get it, because, and this always makes me a little teary. And plus I'm in the season of my cycle, which is also tearful. So I just remember thinking, but we don't look that different. Like I felt like I looked like her.
Yeah.
And so it was a really big moment. And it was then that I just started to look at myself differently and connect to myself differently and feel into myself differently, and it throughout my life. And so, you know, when I got out of grade school, grabbing my tissue on the purse.
Oh, I love it. That's good stuff. Glenn Doyle would be proud.
Yes, right. So like that was when I just started to believe that I had to look different.
Yeah.
And so I started to do things not from a place of like wanting to do them, like, you know, eating differently or working out. And plus I was 12, right? So like you don't think about working out when you're 12. Right. You're just, you know, but it started to feed me, which might be a weird word to use, but it impacted me. And so I took that with me. Now, the good thing is, like, I loved to walk. I've always been a walker. I still am a walker. It's my favorite mode of exercise. I don't even consider it exercise. I just consider it, I mean, I do, but it's just what I do. That and yoga.
More your meditation then, right?
It's just so amazing. I just feel like we all have these, most of us are able-bodied humans who have 2 feet and legs that can take us anywhere. And so why not just walk out your door, right? Like, or hop on a bike.
It's like so accessible. It's the lowest hanging fruit, right?
Totally. And it's also like you're in nature. So you're like 2 for 1. It's amazing. Yeah. So I remember walking to high school. I remember losing weight, but not consciously. Because I just, you know, I was 12. I was also like a baby fat kid, right? You know, it's just like, you don't know.
Right. We haven't grown into our, you know, what adult body yet.
Right. And so it just like, and I started to feel better, and it just, but it still was with me, that image of being fat.
And what did that do to your like confidence and self-esteem, if anything?
Oh,
like how did it show up? How did it show up? you know, in your life in the day to day as a young girl, in your confidence and things like that?
Well, I wasn't confident, really. I mean, I think, but everyone would have thought that. Everyone thought that I was.
So
And
you
I
were
was,
hiding in a way,
what's that?
like you were kind of hiding
A
in a way.
little, yeah, it was more like I was just kind of inwardly suffering
Right. Yeah. Okay.
and comparing. So what I did, like, and it was comparing myself to others. Like the girl, Nicole was a popular girl in grade school and she had bow legs. And I thought that was great. I was like, oh, I want bow legs because like I have inner thighs. I
That's
still
funny.
do. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that'd be great if I had bow legs, but that's never going to happen. That's just not how I'm built.
Right.
So it affected me in the way that I connected with, it really affected my relationships.
Yeah.
As a 12-year-old and high school girl, though, let's just be real, that's not the words that I was saying.
Right.
As an adult looking back, that's the words I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it affected how I had affected my friendships.
Yeah.
It affected how I felt about myself and the confidence with men specifically. Like
Yes.
what my worth and value was very much connected
Yeah.
to my physical appearance. And I carried that with me well into my early 30s,
Me
which
too.
was yesterday. Just kidding, not really.
Well, it looks like it, but yes, me too. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've come a long way.
Did you end up like how did it look with food? Did you end up yo-yo dieting? Did you end up restricting? Like, what did you do with food? Because once we start to understand, oh, we're fat, then we start to do all this weird shit with food, right?
Totally. And you know, my mom, so I restricted. I wasn't a yo-yo. My mom's a yo-yo. She still is.
Yeah.
I restricted. So when I went to college, I was terrified of gaining the freshman 15.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day, I think for at least probably the first year, I ate the same thing for lunch. I had a turkey bagel with low-fat cream cheese and reduced fat cottage cheese and carrots. Isn't that amazing that I know exactly what it was?
Yeah, right. Because you probably did it for so many days.
So many days. And I liked it. And I would also have like plain pasta with like Prego, like just the red sauce.
Right.
But just like I kept things really simple.
Yeah.
I'm someone who I have a sweet tooth. I think I get it from my mom. I enjoy a good sweet. I still indulge in them, maybe more than I should, but I've got things under control. But that's how I ate. I was a restrictor. And I still see when that will come in to my life.
Yeah. So what's your relationship with food like today? Because you said you can see when it comes into your life. Like, how does it show up, and how do you relate to food today?
Well, today I relate to food in a way of I've always loved food.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, I think for people, maybe I could be wrong, but I think people who have, I don't want to say issues or problems, but that's just the thing coming out of my mouth, just a disconnect with food and what it is for us, have a love of food.
Yeah.
They do. We do. I mean, we love food for what it is. And some of us who have unhealthy relationships with food use food as love or nourishment.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that my mom is that part of that. She has a lot of things, you know, I feel bad talking about our mom. I'm not, she's here. So
love you, Mama.
Yeah, I love you. And I just notice it, right? I see it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we are a byproduct of our parents, right? And so whatever we see, whatever they're modeling to us, we're picking up, right?
Totally.
We're on our radar.
Yes. So I went through, so after like college and then like, you know, I just kind of, I've always, so anyway, what I am now, what I do, how my relationship with food is now, it's more fun.
Okay.
I became vegan a while ago through a process of just like, I watched a documentary on a woman who had cancer. She was in her 30s.
Wow. And
she was not really interested in or wanted other options besides chemo, because chemo's poison.
Yeah.
Right. Like it is, but it serves a purpose.
Right.
And so she tried a lot of different food medicine to help herself. And I was intrigued. And so I'm like, well, let me just see. I've always been into challenges. So I will like physically challenge myself or, you know, challenge myself with just little things just to see if I can do it. Yeah. So I was like, well, let me just take out meat. I don't need that much meat. It can't be hard. Let me try it. So I tried that, felt good. And then I phased out, and then it just became more things phasing out. So I phased out fish. Mm-hmm. I phased out dairy. This is like, I just get more information came in, and then more like I just edited according to that.
Yeah.
So now I call myself, and now I'm back in this phase of my life where I'm primarily plant-based,
Okay.
and I will choose to eat wild fish at times of my cycle when I know it's going to support me.
Yeah.
And also my body's telling me what I need.
Yes.
So
That's
yeah. So
yeah.
I'm very much aware of like what I want versus what I want versus what I need.
What
And
you
there's a
need. Yeah.
very fine line.
Yes. There
So
is
does
a
that,
very fine line.
yeah.
Because a lot of what we want, it all lives up here around like cravings and using food emotionally or using food as a stress relief, right? And then there's what our body really needs.
Totally.
I'm very, very similar to you. So I was vegan for a long time. It all naturally, gradually happened. It was like I gave up hot dogs at 16, red meat at 19, and then it like all happened. And now I do the same thing. Like every once in a while, I'll do wild caught salmon. It's always right before my period that I want it. I crave it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't eat eggs or anything or dairy, but I do that every once in a while. And I noticed that it's really helpful and beneficial to my system.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I added eggs, and I only get them from two places, but that they're direct from the farm, so I know where they're coming from. And sometimes I'll have goat cheese, and again, it's direct from the farm. That's local. I try to do, if I'm gonna do non-plant based, I'm very conscious that I want it to be as local as possible, regional as possible.
That's
But I
great.
will break my habit for some serious chocolate lava cake. Like if there's a lava cake on deck,
Yeah.
sign me up.
Gotta have that. Gotta
That's
have that.
just my thing.
So like so you had a lot of body stuff, right? So when did it start to shift for you? Because it sounds like the veganism started to, you watched the movie, right? You were like, oh wow, I want to kind of, maybe dive into this lifestyle a little bit to see if I feel better. But what about the body stuff? Like how did that transform for you?
That started in my 20s when I graduated from college and moved away from home.
Okay.
And probably like my second move, I lived in Cincinnati at the time, and I was going to a gym. And let me just also add in, like, I noticed at that time I was working out, but also overeating. Anyone relate to that? I don't know if anyone can.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So I was cooking.
Oh, I worked out. I can eat more.
Right. I was cooking from Cooking Light magazine. Okay. Anyone remember that?
Magazine? Yes.
Yeah. And eating like probably half of the potential 4 to 6 person portions that was being made.
Right.
So yeah, so it's still in that struggle. So for me, physically, what changed for me, what the catalyst was for me to get back into my body was yoga. Because I've been, like I said, I've always been a walker. I've never been a person who wanted to play sports. I was never good at it. Yeah. And so I felt bad about myself. And so when I found yoga, I happened to be the only person in this class that at the time was in a Bali Total Fitness gym. Okay. And I fell in, like, this woman was this big and she had lost like over 100 some pounds. And I wasn't like, at first I was like, oh, maybe yoga is the answer. But as I kept going, it was more like, oh, I feel good doing this. Like again, I'm gonna cry. I can do this. Yeah. Like this is like, for years, I've not been able to do anything that people have maybe said I could do, or society likes pushing on me, or like other people are doing. My body is doing this naturally. Yeah. And so I fell in love, and I've been practicing for yoga for over 20 years. And that was the big move for me. Yeah.
Yeah. You and I are way more similar than I thought, because yoga was the catalyst for me too with my body. It wasn't the full healer. I had to do a lot of deep emotional work, but yoga was the first place that I actually got in my body, because I was an athlete and I played a lot of sports, but I was never in my body, right? I was always just kind of like doing the thing to try to like make my body look a certain way externally. So yes. Yeah. So the yoga really dropped me in. And then I started to do more like free dance, the transformation dance, transcendence and stuff. And those two combined really changed things for me in terms of like getting me in my body in a different way.
100%. Dance is such a powerful therapy movement. Yes. And even if you don't take a dance class, like turn on some freaking music and let your body move.
Oh my God. Ooh, yeah. It's so good.
Because even yoga can be really, really linear and really masculine. And while there's not anything wrong with that, if you're someone that is a control person and you want to control something, I invite you to like find some movement that might make you feel uncomfortable. You know, take like a flow class that's not like a more feminine aligned class, find a dance class, like just see, because your body might respond totally differently.
I love that. I love that. So how did you start to move toward working with women around their cycles? What was that catalyst for you?
Yeah. Well,
So-
that was when a coach told me I couldn't use my period as an excuse.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
I was like, what? And I heard it and I was like, hmm. And I just sat with it for a minute, because here's what happened. And I wish to God I could remember what she was asking me to do or consider, because here's what shifted. Here's what I've known. So since I got my period as a 12-year-old, I have always been connected to the time before you start your period. I don't know any woman who's not.
Right.
It's either conscious or subconscious, but you know.
Yes.
And so I knew that I was PMSing. I was like, and I knew that I felt different.
Yes.
I couldn't put my finger on why. I couldn't put my finger on why what she asked me I couldn't do at that time, because I didn't know all the amazing energy and information about my cycle. I just knew that I felt different.
Right.
And some things felt harder. And what she was asking me to do felt like, I can't do that right now. I wasn't saying that I couldn't do it ever. It just was like, in that moment, I'm gonna think on this.
Yes.
And there's a reason why, by the way.
Okay.
Because that's part of the season. There are 4 seasons of the cycle, and in each one has its own, there's many different qualities, but there is a reason why at a certain time of the month you might be like, let me take a pause. Okay. So I'll leave that there. So that got me to, and then she introduced me to a book. She's like, I just read this book. I think you should read it. And I was like, okay. I read it and thought it was magic. And I began living like that. Plus, like, I follow this woman. I've been to a retreat with her a few times. Her name's Achintya Devi. She's a goddess. I hate to say it like that, but she's, like a moon goddess, and very much on the other opposite spectrum of where maybe some women are here today. And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
And I started to track my cycle. I read about what the phases were, and I was like, "Oh, this is fascinating." Yeah. And I'm very much, if you heard earlier, like an implementer, like in a challenge, like take it on. I'm like, let me see, right? Let me see if this works. And it worked, because I was a woman, am a woman who thinks a lot. I have a very active mind.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm an overdoer, but I can get caught up in the energy of doing.
Right.
I think that's a product of who I am and my makeup.
Yeah.
And also the product of the world we live in that pushes that on us.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
And so for me, that created some overwhelm, not just some, but a decent amount.
Yeah.
And a lot of self-doubt.
Mm.
And so that's the woman I work with, because I know her real well.
Yeah.
And so you would ask me the cycle and how that impacted. So, and I'm kind of getting around to that. So it was a lot of like, it was like, oh, wow, I can manage my energy. Oh, wow, there's a reason that this is happening. And it's not just because I'm cranky or getting my period.
Right.
Oh, wow, like I have control over this. Oh, and that was like a big moment. And putting that on top of all the things that I experienced in my body with yoga, it was like the best marriage that I had for me and what I call body wisdom.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And so when you sit there's, and for those women who are joining us today or later, like some of you may track your cycle.
Yeah.
But that doesn't tell you anything. It tells you like maybe when you're ovulating, and PS, it's not the same every month. And it might tell you when you're getting your period, and PS, that changes too. Yes. Because depending on what's happening in your life, external life, diet, all the things impact. And so tracking is bullshit. Just putting it out there. And so what I teach is syncing, because there's the aspect. Yeah. Because you have to be able to use what you know. And so if you're tracking, you aren't really paying attention to anything.
Right.
except maybe when you're getting your period and maybe when you're ovulating.
Yeah, you're like,
And
oh, it's
that's
day 23. I have blah blah blah. Right. So then you're not really tuned in. It's like tracking food. It's the same freaking thing.
Yes. Yeah. It's the same thing. And so I'm getting really vocal about it because it needs to happen. And I'm glad you made that connection to the food because it's so true. Because here's the other thing, even women who track their cycles still get surprised by their period.
Yeah.
Because they're not paying attention to how they feel.
Right.
And that is you cannot change your life or how you handle things in your life if you are ignoring how you feel.
Yes, that's so true. Yeah.
And it's a huge indicator.
Yeah.
Because
it is.
You can't, like, it's informative. And so I just launched my first program last week. I'm so fired up. You're catching me in the fired, wild woman phase of my cycle. So yeah, I'm happy to be serving women in this way, because it's like what I've done in my life is just take everything that I knew from like tracking and then like, how do I put that into my life? And then, now I have this awesome system, which is already in you, right? If you're menstruating, and even if you're not a menstruator, you have the power to sync. You're no longer the prisoner to anyone else's stuff. You're like your own person. And I teach you how to make life edits or know what life edits to make so that if something happens out of sync with your cycle, because let's be real, it does.
Yeah.
You aren't stuck out. How do I want to say it? I said it the other day for myself so clearly. It's like, you're not stuck going against yourself. You know how to bring yourself back into the phase where you are, so you can start to ebb and flow. It's more of a dance.
Yeah.
It's more of a dance.
It sounds really self-honoring. Like it's just really connected to what's happening like with your physical being, which so many of us are, so disconnected from, you know what I mean? And I think there was a woman, a book I read a while ago, I think it's Feminine Genius or something. And she was talking about this kind of the same thing where she was just like, people, the week before our periods, women need to like go inward. That's like a time where we really need to just not do a lot, take a lot off our plates, like go more inward. And I don't know, you probably know the book, The Red Tent, right? Where
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Where women gather together to menstruate together many years ago.
Yes.
And I feel like that's when we need that support so much, and we're all such an individualized society now, but like, it's so important to be attuned to our bodies and how that affects what we do in the day-to-day of life and how much we put on our plate in the day-to-day of life too,
Yeah, because to your point, like the phase, it's the fall season of your cycle, is very much, it doesn't mean you have to stop doing things. It's just that where your focus is different.
Yes.
So like you were saying, it's an internal focus. And a lot of women, I think, hear that and they're like, oh, that means I can't, like, what does that mean? It's very uncomfortable. But it means, like, for example, it's like, it's a really good time. Like if you're a writer or you're working on a project that requires you to be really focused, that the fall season is a really good time for you to make that project more dominant in your schedule, because you're going to serve yourself and the project.
Yes.
And you also have insane intuitive hits at specific seasons, phases. I have to start picking one word, at specific times of the month, where like you're going to get that body wisdom, that intuitive hit. But if you are just stuck, like not even in your body, then intuition, forget about it. Like it's there because it's there in all of us, but the activity of your mind is blocking out what your spirit self or your highest self really does want to tell you.
All the time, right? All the time.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this. This is such important work. And I'm so glad that there's women out there like you doing this, because I also feel like it connects us to our bodies in such a different way. And especially if we have food issues, body image issues, like it's a whole nother kind of doorway in to that kind of stuff to help heal that kind of stuff, because women are such complex, humans are complex, but women, because we can create these miracles in our bodies and give birth, and we're such complex beings, and there's so much going on. And I feel like in today's society, because like You know, we have to all be independent. We push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves, and we don't have the help of the village to raise our children.
Yeah.
Right. So we're just like, there's so many women who are burnt out and like not just paying attention, you know. It's so crazy. And I just was talking to a client of mine about this because she's never had her hormones checked. She's been overweight. She works out every day, exercises, nothing changes, and she gets super down on herself.
Sure.
She got all her hormones tested. Everything was completely out of whack. Like everything. And she said, oh my God, I would have never thought to do this. I'm so glad you suggested this because now I don't feel like I'm crazy.
Right.
You know? Now I can take steps. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. And with food, like just what you said with food and exercise, right? Like I've been there too, where you're like, oh my God, I'm doing all the things with the F. Why isn't anything happening?
Right.
It's that same, like a woman said that exact same thing to me about her emotions. She's like,
Oh.
oh, now I know. This makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because no wonder this is happening, you know, and for the cycle too, and with the work that you do with food, you know, I consider food to be medicine. You know, I don't always use it in that way. Let's just be totally honest. However, like the work that you do and the work that I do is connected because there are certain foods that you can add into your diet at certain times, really all the time. Like it's just a handful and not even that you can implement into your lifestyle that will allow you to use food as a way to reduce your physical symptoms. That way you're even going deeper into yourself and
well, I've seen that personally myself. Like I used to be years and years and years ago, I used to be a coffee drinker, and that really affected me. I'd get really like cystic breasts and like just horrible energy. And when I gave up drinking coffee, a lot of that stuff went away. So it's even like removing stuff out of our diet too that can have a negative physical effect on our bodies, you know?
Totally. I just created a free gift for that. It was for my Get and Flow free challenge. I did a free gift with like foods to avoid, coffee's on there, and foods to add. So just a handful, right? It's just super simple stuff because it allows you to check in and just look at the foods to avoid, like how many times am I pulling from that list? Right. And then, you know, if I want to, like, let's say I have coffee every day and I've never been a coffee drinker, it's not for me. I have a lot of energy. I don't need coffee. I love the way it smells. Love the way it smells.
One of my favorite smells. Yeah.
It's so good. I'm like, but so then you can look and see like, oh, and then, you know, instead of coffee, you know, you add something else in, right? So
it's not so much about restricting anything. It's just about removing things that may not serve your body, you know, in kind of normalizing or neutralizing or whatever you need to do to feel your best, like to nourish yourself.
Totally. I call it like, it's kind of like, I call things life edits. This would be a diet edit. You're just editing, right? It's literally an edit. Like, oh, taking this, it's like if you were to cut and paste something, you're editing it. So you're just editing what you're choosing.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Cause one of the things that, you know, I really do, cause I don't, with my work with my clients, I don't believe in dieting. I'm working to get people away from dieting. And so, but then there's so many people who have, you know, sensitivities to foods, or this makes them feel like crap, or eating this makes them feel like crap. And I said, well, listen, you know, you can choose to stop eating that food because it doesn't make you feel good versus seeing it as like, I have to restrict myself and feel like, right. But it's more about your well-being, right? And what nourishes you. Because a lot of people get freaked out when they have to start restricting, right? But it's not about that. It's about honoring your body and nourishing your body and using food as medicine, right? And cutting out the things that may harm your body or make you not feel good physically.
Totally.
Yeah.
I shared this in my group today and I did a live about it, this conversation. And that's exactly, it's part of what I shared. It was like, you know, it's really talking about what your show is. I was like, it's changing the conversation. And then I was like, it's actually changing the way you think about it.
Yes.
Because what you think about your period, what you think about food, that impacts your connection to the thing.
100%.
And to your body. Right. So if you think of your period as just some annoying thing that happens every month that you wish would go away, I feel for you. I want to help you look at it differently, right? So that you can look at it from a place of serving you and not be bombarded with, like, if you feel like if you have a painful period, like, let me just say, like, you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
So
that means there's something going on, right? There's something out of balance, or you need to focus on taking care of yourself in a different way.
Totally.
You know, I am going to be 52 this year, and I am wanting to bleed for as long as I possibly can, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's the body's natural. I embrace my period every month. I'm super excited that I still get my period.
I know. I'm excited for you. That's amazing.
And I want to, I know this sounds weird, but I want to keep it going for as long as possible because I feel
doesn't sound weird to a period expert.
I know, but maybe to people who are listening, it might sound,
True.
I have friends who have gone through menopause and, and I'm like, I'm not ready. And there's a
Yeah.
big part of me that knows I'm going to be grieving when I lose my period, that I will grieve that because it's a loss of, in a lot of ways for women, they talk about a loss of youth, right? And how we start to age more after our periods leave us. And there's just so much stuff changes, so embracing our periods and thinking about them differently, which is what you help women do, is so important.
Yeah, and I love that you share that because so my mom told me that she went into menopause at 50 and she's like, it was and without me even asking, she's like, it was the greatest, it was the greatest day ever. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm like, and I don't feel that way. I mean, I've had my fair share of not wanting my period. Let me just be real, right? I mean, this is why I do the work that I do. Yeah. But what is really important that I want to expand on just a little bit that you shared is, it's the body's way. So yeah, when you have a period, it's the body's way of not only shedding physical lining, which we all know, right? Or maybe you don't, but I think you do. You're all smart ladies. Because you're not having a baby, right? And that may be something that is triggering for some who are watching who might want to have a baby. So I apologize in advance. That's not my intention here. I'm just saying physically, that's what it is. And energetically, you can use it to heal. And so what I'm noticing and what I'm seeing with my older women in my community, I apologize for saying older because they're probably in their 50s and you're not old. So let me just pull that back out, but maybe more sophisticated women.
Because I also wiser women.
I consider myself older and I'm 44. So whatever. Anyway, they are still experiencing, even in post-menopause or menopause, they're still experience the emotional downside, I would say, to having a cycle.
Yeah.
And so my invitation for you ladies out here, no matter how old you are, how young you are, is to really investigate oh shit, I do notice those feelings every month. I feel extra emotional, extra sensitive. First of all, that's normal. Second of all, there's a reason why it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's not just physical. And when you get in touch with it and you work with your cycle and you understand, being with my cycle has allowed me to decode my emotions and really understand why they're coming up and what I need to, I hate to say to do, but what I need to take care of myself through that. Right. It's a preparatory, it's wanting to be healed. That's why you're feeling this way.
Yes.
But if you continue to ignore that it's happening, you can't, I'm sorry, but you won't move through it.
Yeah.
And you'll go into menopause carrying it with you.
All that. Yep.
And you don't want that. Just like Melissa said, she's like, I'm really joyful having her period, right? And she's making peace, maybe, I don't know, with where she is in her cycle, with the emotions that come up. So she's likely going to have a more, more easeful experience into the next phase of her womanhood.
I hope so.
And that's what we all want, right? I mean, because it is going to be different, right? And you won't know what it is until you get there. And without saying, I guarantee, I strongly believe that when you connect with your cycle where you are now, that as you move through the next phase of whatever that is for you, it will be so much more beautiful and much less painful, physically and emotionally.
Yeah. And I feel like we can, so many of us are taught not to face our emotions, right? This is something that, as any human, but women and men, obviously, we just don't, a lot of us haven't been taught how to turn toward our inner world or turn toward our emotions. And so a lot of us are, when we get that kind of weepy feeling in PMS, or we get angry, or we get whatever we get, right? Then people tend to either drink more, eat more, right? They're using all of these outside sources, right? And what you're saying is so important. You're like, it's there because it needs to heal. And this is exactly what I work on with people with food. It's like, you need to, instead of using food to push your emotions down, right? You need to be syncing up with yourself. I love that word you're saying, and really, turning toward that, because that your emotions are because they want to come up, they want to heal. And the period, right? Our cycle is so like, it provides that opportunity for us at certain times, like
It's
even more so.
totally made to release.
Yeah.
That's why we have periods.
Right.
You're not meant to hold it all in there.
Right.
The lining is supposed to go. If you're not housing a human, the lining has to shed. I mean, think about it. The body is such an amazing piece of work.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. And the woman body is even more so. I say, maybe I'm biased because I am one, I don't know. But even men, right? Like, and women who love women, like, there's a reason why. I mean, this system that we have as women, it's made to do what it does for a real reason and not just physical. Right. So yeah, I mean, when you like, that's the thing I notice with my clients is like, they just identify with their cycle as their period. Right. And that's not true. Your cycle is a 28 to 31 day process. It's a whole thing. And within those days, you go through at least four different phases and multiple like ebbs and flows. That's just how we are as women. We are aligned. I talked about this on Monday and Tuesday. We are lunarly, which may not be a word.
Oh yes,
we are lunarly aligned. Men are solarly aligned. Women experience, like, our emotions and our hormones fluctuate daily.
Yep.
Men's are super stable and every day they're about the same.
Yeah.
Whereas ours are not. And so that's why too, I'm so passionate about this work, especially for the overwhelmed, overcommitted woman, because when you believe that you have the same energy all the time, you operate in that way of thinking you do. So you take on things.
Yeah.
And then inevitably you hit the time of the month where you don't feel good. That might be different for each woman.
Right.
And you're like, oh, fuck, like, why? Like, now what do I do? Right. And you're pushing against yourself.
Yeah.
And
so God, so much to do. I can't get it done. All the the madness. Yeah.
And until you break that pattern, that's the cycle you live in. Yeah. And it sucks.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I work with tons of overachievers. I'm sure you do too. Totally. I mean, overachievers, because they realize that when they were young, that's the way they got their value. So they just become these overachievers. And now, like, even more so today, women are just in such a different boat in terms of like how we're showing up. We're more independent. We're more powerhouse, right? We're building all of this stuff. And on some level, it's a little bit out of a detriment to our well-being, right? Because we're not built as humans to be freaking stressed out all the time and worrying all the time and wearing the 10 different hats, right? Parent, mom, child, in school to home teacher, all these things.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Well, what you're doing is so important. So we're going to wrap up, but I want to hear first where people can find you.
Yes.
And so that they can come learn about the work you're doing and all of that, all the good stuff, and any freebie you have that
Totally. I didn't know. Was I supposed to send you a freebie? Did I send you a freebie?
No, but people can go to your website and get it.
Oh, okay. I was like, what am I doing? I was like, okay. Okay. So you can find me in a lot of different places. My website's lenadolter.com. And my current pop-up, just ignore it. It's a yoga pop-up. Don't worry about it. But I have a couple freebies there. One is a 5-minute centered meditation, which may or may not help you now. I'm going to just I need to tune it in. I'm like, oh, I have all these things. So let me just tune it in and talk about what we had today. So if you like what we talked about today and you like what you heard and you want to know more about tuning in with your cycle and what that means, I invite you to join me in my free Facebook group, The Clear and Confident Woman.
Yes, that's it. Right.
So it's just so easy. And you can just use, it's private and closed for your protection. Right. So, but you can search it and it'll pop up and you just hit request to join. I'll let you in. It's
and that's a great forum. That's the one thing I do love about the Facebook groups. It's a great forum that they're private, where people can share what's going on, and you can really kind of dive in and help people. And I know you go live quite a bit in there, right? And share
I do. My aim is like every week. I would like to be doing it more. And then like once you get in there, I can share with you those other free resources, right? I don't want to overwhelm you, but like you'll be able to find all those other options. So, but anywhere you find Lena Dolter, you can find me. But the Facebook group's a really great way to stay, like get even more connected and get more into what's going on in the world of what it means to your cycle and food and how you can use both of those things to be an empowered woman and aligned and just feel better in your body.
Gosh, I feel like it's like, I don't even know if I can get the right words, but I feel like it's the core of everything. I mean, our heart, of course, is the core of everything, but like as women, right? Women who are not even still cycling, but as women, like we need this support for our bodies, because I know when I was growing up, I was so disconnected and I was very masculine when I was younger. I was like a tomboy and I didn't really step into my femininity until a lot later in my life. And I feel like a lot of women, they've become so much more masculine, and that doesn't really help us connect either, because they're either protecting themselves or they're in the work world. And so it's just this kind of dance between, and also being taught that like that being feminine is not, it's weak, it's not cool, right? Like, I mean, that's a whole bigger conversation.
Totally.
Yeah. But like, I feel like it's like at the core of us tuning into our bodies and our femininity in such a powerful way, you know?
Yeah. It's let me just say this to like women who like you and I help, those go get women, right? Like we get it. I get it. We both get it. I want you to know that tuning into your body, whether it's through food or through your cycle or both, will not take away your edge.
Yeah.
It actually just gives you more. It's just an energetic component that you just are going to tweak to make it work for you so that you're not going against yourself.
Right.
So yeah.
Yay.
So much fun.
One final question, and maybe this applies to you, but I ask all of my people I interview, what does life living beyond the scale mean for you?
Oh, great question. I was like, is this going to be like Brene Brown's question when she asked me? I was like, what's happening? What's she going to ask me? Okay, ask me again. What is life beyond the scale?
Living beyond the number on the scale mean for you?
Oh, let me tell you, ladies, the scale sucks. And when I step on it, I feel bad. I try not to. So life beyond the scale means to me freedom. In one word, it would mean freedom. And again, I gotta say, it's like when you tune into your body and you know how you feel and you know how your clothes fit and how you feel in them, that's life beyond the scale. Yeah. Because then you just don't need the number to show you that you've come somewhere or achieve something. Like it is a marker, but it doesn't have to be the marker.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think so much of it too is about how do you build trust with yourself and your body, right? So that you don't need some metal or glass box on the floor to give you your power or not, right? So yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Lena, thank you so much for joining me today. And you guys go find Lena, Clear and Confident Woman on Facebook. Her website's Lena Dolter. I'll post links also in the comments as well. Great. And thank you so much. And you're doing such great work in the world. And I'm so glad we got to do this today. This is so fun.
Me too. We need to talk more often. Okay.
I know. I have to be good friends with you. Like we're in the same coaching group together, but we don't really.
And I see you and things are happening and we will make it happen. It's just like now it's like
a couple times, but I feel like
the same hair.
I know. We're gonna make that happen.
Well, thank you very much. And to everyone here, thank you for being here. And thank you, Melissa, for doing the work you do and for having me on.
Okay. Bye, everybody.